All right, get ready because today we are going on a deep dive
Ooh, deep dive.
into the minds of some seriously heavy hitters.
All right.
Dostoevsky,
Okay.
Nietzsche,
I'm familiar.
and a modern thinker who draws a lot of inspiration from both of them, Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Those are some big names in the world of ideas.
They are.
I'm very curious to see where this deep dive takes us.
You and me both. Our source material today is a conversation with Dr. Peterson where he digs into what makes Dostoevsky so powerful. So powerful that he actually says reading Dostoevsky kind of ruined other literature for him.
That's a pretty strong statement.
It is.
I mean, what do you think he means by that? It's not like Dostoevsky's the only great writer out there.
Right, and that's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
It's not just about like the quality of the writing itself.
Yeah.
It's more about the depth of the ideas that Dostoevsky explores. Stuff like faith,
Okay.
morality,
Yeah.
the human condition,
Right.
all those big questions.
The deep stuff.
Exactly.
So.
And these are topics that Dr. Peterson himself is really passionate about.
Right. So Dostoevsky wasn't just telling stories.
No.
He was wrestling with these fundamental questions about, like, what it means to be human.
Yes. And Peterson clearly sees that
Right.
in this conversation.
Yeah.
He focuses on two of Dostoevsky's works, in particular,
Okay.
The Idiot
Okay.
and The Brothers Karamazov.
Those are considered masterpieces, but I've heard that they can be pretty intense.
They are.
Can you give us like a quick rundown
Okay.
of what they're about?
So in The Idiot,
Yeah.
we meet Prince Mishkin,
Prince Mishkin.
who's often described as a holy fool.
A holy fool.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Well, now that might sound like an insult,
Yeah.
but it's actually a really interesting archetype.
Okay.
The holy fool is someone who seems naive
Uh-huh.
or even simple,
Okay.
but actually possesses a deep, almost childlike wisdom
Okay.
that challenges societal norms.
Oh, so it's like they see through the hypocrisy and superficiality of the world.
Exactly.
No,
And that's something Peterson seems to connect with very strongly.
Yeah, he's not afraid to challenge conventional thinking.
No, he's not.
But what about the brothers Karamazov?
Yeah.
That one's a whole other beast.
It is a sprawling epic
Right.
that delves into the lives of these three very different brothers.
Okay.
Dmitri,
I'm sorry.
Ivan,
Ivan.
and Alyosha.
All right, three brothers.
And each brother kind of represents a different way of approaching life. Dimitri's impulsive and passionate.
Okay.
Ivan is a brilliant but troubled rationalist. And Alyosha's deeply spiritual and compassionate.
Now, knowing Dr. Peterson,
Yeah.
I bet he doesn't just see these characters as, like, fictional creations.
No,
I'm guessing he identifies with some of their struggles.
you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
He talks about connecting with both Prince Mishkin,
From The Idiot?
yeah, in the Idiot, and two of the brothers in The Brother Karamazov.
Okay, which two?
Ivan, the atheist rationalist,
Okay.
and Alyosha,
Which is a spiritual one.
the man of faith.
Wow, talk about a contrast.
It is.
What do you think that says about Dr. Peterson's own internal landscape?
I think it speaks to this constant tension he seems to feel
Uh-huh.
between faith and reason,
Okay.
between logic and emotion.
Yeah.
He sees both sides as valid and necessary,
Yeah.
but they're also in constant conflict.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Because it's like he's embodying a key theme from Dostoevsky's work.
Yes.
The struggle between these different aspects of human nature.
Yes.
It's not a neat and tidy answer.
Right.
It's messy and complex, just like real life.
Exactly. And this is where I think it starts to get really relevant
Okay.
to all of us, even if we haven't read a single page of Dostoevsky.
Right.
Have you ever felt that pull between different ways of seeing the world,
Oh, yeah.
different ways of making sense of things?
Absolutely. I think most of us wrestle with those kinds of internal conflicts
Yeah.
at some point in our lives.
Yes.
It's part of what makes us human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Peterson's fascination with Dostoevsky
Yeah.
seems to stem from the way Dostoevsky captures that complexity so brilliantly.
Yeah, it's like Dostoevsky is holding up a mirror to the human soul and saying, look, this is us
Yeah.
in all our messy glory.
Yeah. And that's where Nietzsche comes in,
Okay.
which I know we haven't talked about much yet.
Right.
But he plays a crucial role in how Peterson interprets all of this.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
How does a novelist like Dostoevsky
Yeah.
connect to a philosopher like Nietzsche?
Yeah.
They seem like they'd be coming at things from completely different angles.
They do, and yet Peterson sees this really interesting parallel between them.
Okay.
He even describes Nietzsche as almost being a character within a Dostoevsky novel.
Wow, that's wild.
It is.
What's the connection?
Well, both of them were grappling with these really big questions about
Yeah.
faith, morality, and
Yeah.
the search for meaning in a world that can often feel pretty meaningless.
So even though they were working in different forms, they were both wrestling with these fundamental human dilemmas.
Yes.
But wasn't Nietzsche famous for being kind of a pessimist?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How does that fit with Peterson's whole emphasis on choosing to see the good in the world?
That is the really interesting part.
Okay.
Peterson acknowledges that Nietzsche can be seen as a pretty dark
Yeah.
and even nihilistic thinker.
Right.
But he also points out that Nietzsche was deeply concerned about the problem of nihilism,
Okay.
the belief that life is ultimately meaningless.
So he wasn't advocating for nihilism. He was actually trying to grapple with its implications.
Exactly.
Oh.
And in grappling with those implications, Nietzsche came to this really radical conclusion.
What's that?
That if traditional sources of meaning and morality are gone, then we humans have to find new ways to create those things for ourselves.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty bold idea.
Yeah.
So instead of giving into despair, he's saying we have to step up and become like the creators of our own meaning.
Right.
Wow.
And that's where Peterson sees a connection to Dostoevsky's idea that we must choose to have faith in the goodness of the world.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together,
Yeah.
but I'm also curious to hear more about how these ideas play out
Yes.
in Dostoevsky's actual novels.
Yeah.
Let's dive deeper into the brothers Karamazov and see how these themes are embodied in the characters.
Okay.
I'm especially intrigued by that contrast between Ivan and Alyosha.
Yes.
How can Peterson possibly relate to both of them?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And we are going to get into that right after the break.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Welcome back. I'm still thinking about how both Dostoevsky and Nietzsche, they both challenge traditional ideas about faith and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about blind acceptance.
Yeah.
It's about actively choosing what you believe in.
Yeah. And it's in the brothers Karamazov
Okay.
where we see this idea play out in
Right.
a really powerful way,
Right.
especially through the characters of Ivan
Okay.
and Alyosha.
Right. You were saying that Peterson connects with both of them,
He does.
even though they represent such opposing viewpoints.
They really do. It's almost like they embody this internal struggle that he's always talking about,
Yeah.
that tension between faith and reason,
Yeah.
between the head and the heart.
Right.
Ivan, the brilliant intellectual who rejects God.
Right.
Alyosha, the deeply spiritual, compassionate one.
Okay.
Peterson finds himself drawn to both of their perspectives.
That's so interesting because it highlights the complexity of these issues.
Right.
It's not just a simple either situation.
Yeah.
It's about holding those conflicting ideas in your mind and wrestling with them.
And one of the most famous sections
Yes.
of the Brothers Karamazov is Ivan's Rebellion chapter. That's where he lays out this incredibly powerful argument
Okay.
against the existence of a loving God,
All right.
especially in a world filled with so much suffering.
I've heard about that chapter.
Yeah.
People say it's one of the most compelling critiques of traditional religious belief ever written.
It really is. And what's fascinating is that Peterson doesn't shy away from the power of Ivan's argument. He actually acknowledges
Okay.
that it's incredibly persuasive
Okay.
on an intellectual level.
Right. So logically, it makes sense.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Even though Peterson respects the logic
Uh-huh.
of Ivan's position,
Okay.
he ultimately finds Alyosha's perspective more compelling.
So what makes Alyosha's faith more convincing,
Yeah.
even in the face of Ivan's arguments?
Well, it goes back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The idea that actions speak louder than words.
Right.
Alyosha might not be able to win a philosophical debate against his brother, but he embodies his faith in a way that Ivan simply doesn't.
So it's not just about what you believe.
Yeah.
It's about how you live your life.
Yes.
Dostoevsky seems to be saying that true faith is about embodying those values in your actions, in your relationships, and the way you move through the world.
Exactly. And I think this is something that really resonates with Peterson.
Okay.
He talks about how we need to make a fundamental statement of faith in something, even if we don't have all the answers.
Okay.
Even if the evidence isn't clear-cut.
So even with uncertainty and doubt,
Yeah.
we have to make a choice to believe in something.
Yes.
To commit to a certain way of being in the world. That's a pretty radical idea
It is.
in a culture that often emphasizes
Yeah.
skepticism and questioning everything.
It is radical, and I think it's one of the things that makes Peterson's work so compelling.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
to suggest that there might be something more to life
Right.
than just what we can see and measure.
And this isn't just some like abstract philosophical concept for him,
No.
right? I mean, he's spoken openly about his own struggles
Yeah, it is.
with depression and doubt.
Yeah.
He's walked through those dark places himself.
Exactly. And it seems like what he learned from those experiences and from grappling with thinkers like Dostoevsky and Nietzsche is that choosing to believe in something,
Yeah.
even when it's hard,
Yeah.
can actually be a powerful force
Well,
for healing and transformation.
It's like a leap of faith,
Yes.
but not in some like blind dogmatic sense.
Yeah.
It's about making a conscious choice
Yes.
to act as if the world is good, to act as if love and compassion are real and powerful forces.
I think that's exactly what Peterson is getting at. And there's this one quote from him that really stuck with me. He said, "The world you experience is defined by the way you live in that world."
That's profound.
It is.
It suggests that we're not just passive observers of reality, but like active participants in shaping it.
Yeah.
The way we see the world, the choices we make, the actions we take, all of that influences the world we experience.
And if that's true,
Yeah.
then we have a far greater degree of responsibility for our own lives and for the state of the world than we might typically acknowledge.
Absolutely.
It's both empowering and terrifying at the same time.
Huge responsibility.
It is.
It means we can't just like sit around complaining about the state of things, waiting for someone else to fix it.
Yeah.
We have to actively choose the kind of world we want to live in and then like work to make that vision a reality.
And this brings us back to that idea of choosing faith that Peterson keeps coming back to.
Right.
It's not just about believing in some abstract religious doctrine.
Right.
It's about making a concrete commitment
Okay.
to acting in a certain way,
Right.
to living in a way that aligns with your values.
It's about choosing to embody those values even when it's difficult, even when you doubt, even when the world seems to be telling you that it's all pointless.
Exactly. It's about having the courage to choose hope over despair. Yeah.
To choose love over fear.
Yeah.
To choose to believe that we can make a difference,
Right.
even if it's just a small one.
That's a message that I think we all need to hear, especially in times like these.
Yes.
But we've talked a lot about Dostoevsky and how his work seems to have shaped Peterson's worldview.
Yeah.
I'm ready to hear more about Nietzsche
Okay.
and how he fits into this whole conversation.
Okay, that's where things get even more interesting.
Right.
And we'll dive into that right now. Okay, so Nietzsche.
All right, let's talk Nietzsche.
We've been dancing around his ideas, but now it's time to really bring him into the spotlight.
I'm ready. I have to admit, I'm still a bit puzzled by how Peterson connects him to Dostoevsky
Yeah.
and this whole idea of choosing to have faith in goodness.
Right.
Nietzsche's kind of known for being a bit of a rebel,
He is.
challenging traditional morality and religion.
Yeah, he was definitely a provocateur.
Yeah.
But Peterson sees something deeper in Nietzsche's work, something that actually aligns with Dostoevsky's vision.
In a surprising way.
Interesting. Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Remember how we were talking about Ivan Karamazov's argument against God?
Yeah.
Well, Nietzsche was grappling with similar questions, especially this idea of the death of God,
Right.
what it means for humanity.
Yeah, he famously declared that God is dead.
He did.
And seemed to suggest that like all traditional values and beliefs were crumbling.
Exactly. But Peterson points out that Nietzsche wasn't celebrating this loss of meaning.
Okay.
He was actually deeply concerned
Yeah.
about the potential consequences of nihilism,
Right.
this belief that life is ultimately meaningless.
So he wasn't a nihilist himself,
Right.
but he was wrestling with the implications of a world
Yes.
where those traditional anchors of meaning
Yeah.
were no longer holding firm.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Nietzsche argued that in the absence of those traditional structures,
Uh-huh.
we humans have to find new ways to create meaning and value. We can't just passively accept a meaningless existence.
Right.
We have to actively create meaning for ourselves.
Well, that's a pretty radical idea.
It is.
So instead of relying on like external sources of meaning, like religion or societal norms,
Yeah,
we have to become like the authors of our own values and purpose.
that's exactly it. And this is where Peterson sees the connection to Dostoevsky's call. to choose faith and goodness.
Okay.
It's not about blindly accepting a predetermined set of beliefs.
Right.
It's about making a conscious choice to affirm life, to create beauty and meaning, and to act in ways that contribute to the good even when it's difficult.
So both Dostoevsky and Nietzsche, in their own ways, are challenging us to take responsibility for creating a world worth living in.
Exactly. And they both seem to suggest that this creation of meaning happens on two levels.
Okay, what do you mean?
An inner level and an outer level.
All right, break that down for me.
So on the inner level, it's about cultivating self-awareness, mastering our impulses, becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Okay.
Nietzsche called this striving to become the Übermensch.
The Übermensch.
Or Superman.
Superman.
Someone who transcends the limitations of conventional morality and creates their own values.
So it's about taking ownership of our own personal growth and development.
Yes.
Not just passively accepting the status quo.
Right. And then on the outer level, it's about acting in the world in a way that reflects those values.
Yeah.
Choosing love over hate.
Right.
Compassion over indifference.
Yeah.
Creation over destruction.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences.
Right.
And that we have the power to make a positive impact.
Sounds like a call to action, almost like a moral imperative to step up and be a force for good in the world.
I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not about being perfect or having all the answers.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice. And even small acts of kindness and creativity can make a difference.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
It's made me think about my own choices and the kind of world I'm creating through my actions.
Me too. And I think that's the real power of engaging with thinkers like Dostoevsky and Nietzsche.
Yeah.
They challenge us to examine our own lives, to question our assumptions, and to become more conscious creators of our own reality.
They remind us that we're not just passive passengers on this journey called life.
Right.
We're the drivers.
Yes, we are.
And we have the power to choose our destination.
Well said.
Thanks.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Wow.
Into the minds of Dostoevsky, Nietzsche, and Jordan Peterson.
It's been a journey.
It has been. I encourage you to explore these ideas further.
Yeah.
Maybe pick up a Dostoevsky or a Nietzsche book.
Yeah.
And see what resonates with you.
And most importantly, ask yourself, what kind of world am I creating through my choices and my actions? What small acts of goodness and creativity can I bring into the world today?
I love that. That's a great place to leave it.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another exploration into the world of big ideas.
All right, take care.